Hi, my name is Carl. Let's talk about finding missing traces and how to generate new items. So you have been working with setting traces, but since there are so many items in the aligned elements, there might be cases where traces have not been set. So how can we find these? Well, in aligned elements, we use something called inconsistency rules to find quality problems in the system. One type of quality problem is missing traces. So let's go over to the risk control measure section and find out if all these items are tracing to a requirement indicating that they're implemented, or if there are missing traces in this section. And I can do this by hitting the ellipsis button here and then select Display Inconsistencies. I include all the items and then I tell the system I want to look for missing traces. I click OK, and apparently the system now finds two risk control measures that have not yet been traced to design input requirements. I'm going to pick one of those. And as we can see, the trace to section is empty. And in the inconsistency list, we can see that, among other things, a trace is missing to a requirement. We can set the trace by hitting the action button and trace to design input requirements, and then get a list of the available requirements we can trace to. But if we realize that none of these requirements actually fit and we need to create a new requirement, then we can do this by really easily generating a new requirement. We click the action button and then generate design input requirement. Now, this will create a new form, a requirement form, and I can enter some data here. And then I click the Save button. And what we have done now in a single action is creating a new requirement, and we've already traced it from this measure. If we go back to this risk control measure, we can see an outgoing trace to the requirement, and we can see that the missing inconsistency is gone. So we managed that fairly quickly. Aligned Elements allows you to look for missing traces, incoming or outgoing, and also for traces that you don't expect to be there, so-called illegal traces. This needs to be configured for each customer project, and that's something we can help you with. We can also display missing trace information in our dashboards. In this example, the upper row shows me information about missing traces from user needs to requirements, from requirements to design output, and requirements to tests. And we can click on these links to take us directly to the items that we need to address. That's all about missing traces and generating new items.